Here I am to talk about the AL West as it stands right now on this day on January 15th, 2011, and kind of take a look at how the recent and previous signings and trades and stuff like that will affect what's going on for the teams in 2011. And so, first, as I've noted this before, I'm going to do the ranking of what I feel will be by the end of the season. I feel like the Rangers will be in first, then it'll be Oakland, then the Angels, then the Mariners. It'll be pretty much like it was last year, but it'll be definitely a much closer race. And there'll be reasons as to why soon to come. And so, first, let's take a look at the Mariners. Okay, they're right now projected to be fourth. They really haven't done a whole lot this offseason. Their main biggest pickup was Miguel Olivio. Now, he's definitely going to help them behind the plate and do well for them. He's a good guy. But looking at their depth chart right here, there just isn't a whole lot of power behind them. I mean, you got Figgins, a good leadoff guy, but since he left LA, he just hasn't done that much, since he's been in with the Mariners. And looking around, you're like, there's just not a whole lot of pop in the bat, and they don't quite have that. You still got Ichiro Suzuki, he's going to do phenomenal for you. But if you're just not packing enough in your offensive lineup to be able to go somewhere. I mean, last year, you look what happened to the Mariners. They had Felix Hernandez and Cliff Lee, the best combo back to back. And yet, it didn't work out for them at all. They still ended up fourth. They ended up having to trade, Cliff Lee. And now they've got Justin Smoak. And me personally, I've seen Justin Smoak play. He's a good guy. He's definitely going to... He's still got a little growing to do, but he will eventually get there and be a good first baseman in the American League, as well as the rest of the league. So I think the Mariners, they got a little bit closer, but they're just still not quite there to be in the contending mix, per se. But they're definitely still there. They still got the makeup. They just, maybe if they can find a little bit more pop in their lineup, they'd be a lot better off. But we'll see what happens as the rest of the offseason progresses. Now, to look at who I think will be third is the Angels. Now, coming back over here and looking at the Angels' depth chart, like the Mariners, they really didn't do a whole lot this offseason. I mean, you're looking at what they have, and they managed to get Mathis and, give him another contract, and they managed to pick up Scott Downs. Now, that's a big pickup for the Angels, because when you look at last year and look at the Angels' bullpen, it wasn't quite their traditional bullpen. It wasn't this bullpen where you can throw them out there and be confident that they're going to do it, what they need to do, and they're going to pull through, and they're going to hold up and be a solid bullpen. They weren't quite like that last year. And another reason is because they lost a few guys, like Darren Oliver, who went to the Texas Rangers. So you look at it in such a way that picking up Scott Downs is going to help bring the Angels' bullpen back to where it was just a few years ago. So bullpen looks better. And you also got to take into consideration, when you look at their rotation, you're talking about Weaver, you're talking about Dan Herron, Irvin Santana. I mean, we're talking about some great guys in there. And so you're talking about having Dan Herron for an entire year. That's going to be great for the Angels. That's going to really help them out. And I very well think that the difference between second and third is so minute, it could go either way. So, I mean, it could be Angels could be second again, or it could be the A's going to be second. Who knows, But I'm not sure how that's going to shape out. We'll find out when the season begins. But, if people can stay healthy and if Scott Kazmir can bounce back and have a good year, I wouldn't be surprised if the Angels do make a comeback and really do push for first. They've got the guys. They've got Torii Hunter still. They've still got Bobby Abreu. You've got Ibar and Kendrick and Morales. I mean, Napoli. You've got some guys with some pop, guys that can bat well. You're still missing that Chone Figgins kind of personality that you had with the team. But, they're learning how to get by without that at the moment. And so, maybe they will find another guy like that. But at the moment, they're working without him, and they're doing well without Chone Figgins. And so I don't expect Chone Figgins being out again. He's been with the Mariners now. He hadn't done that well. Thankfully for the Angels, he really didn't do that well. So we'll see how the Angels fare with their lineup right now. And I think they're going to do a lot better, especially if they stay healthier and don't lose a lot of big part of their offense this coming season. So Angels have a really good potential of being really up there. Now, going over and looking at what the Oakland Athletics are doing. Now, Oakland Athletics, they've been everywhere. I mean, simply put, they're getting around with everybody and everybody. I mean, they've picked up David DeJesus from the Royals. You're talking about picking up Josh Willingham. You're talking about picking up Brandon McCarthy. You're talking about picking up Rich Harden, Hideki Matsui. I mean, they're unloading right now. They're looking for a nice offense, and they're also trying to get some more experience in their bullpen and try to get, or not necessarily bullpen, but the rotation and their bullpen. Don't forget about Grant Balfour, and the fact that they're pushing for Brian Fuentes. And so, I mean, they're really pushing it. And not to mention, you still got Andrew Bailey, who was once a Rookie of the Year, coming up. You've got Dallas Braden, who threw a perfect game last year. You got Travis Cahill, who's proven to be very, very, very good. I mean, not to mention the rest of the guys that they have. The A's are really pushing it this year. I mean, they're really going to push the envelope, and they're going to give Texas a run for their money. I mean, Hideki Matsui can produce like he has in the past, he'll be okay. Josh Willingham can get some pop going. If David DeJesus can bat well like he has before, these guys that they brought in, if they bring that offense, the A's are going to be there. A's aren't going away. They've said, hey, we're here to win, we're here to compete, and that's what they're doing. They're showing that, and they're bringing in people. The only thing I have kind of against the A's, and when I think about it, is whether or not their offense will pick up, whether or not their offense will keep going. I believe the pickups they got, when you look at Willingham, it's DeJesus and Mitsui, they will bring a lot to the table. But is it going to be enough? I think it possibly could be. Definitely enough when you take what they've done in the past. But what really gets me a whole lot is when you look at the rotation. It's still a very young rotation. And the two guys they brought in are Brandon McCarthy and Rich Harden. Now, when you look at both of them, Rich Harden barely played last year. And the little time he got, he didn't play well that much at all. He had maybe a good start here and there. Otherwise, it was bad for Rich Harden. Not quite his usual self, and he's still trying to come back from shoulder injury. And then you've got Brandon McCarthy, who's been injury-riddled for years, And I've watched both of them pitch. They've got talent, no doubt. But injuries just really have bogged them down a whole lot. And so I'm really iffy on their rotation. The back end of their rotation just doesn't, the first four guys, that's okay. The problem is the first four guys is they're young and they're still learning. So we'll see how it pans out. Who knows? Hopefully, their signings will progress and do very well for them. But we'll see what happens. But I think the A's have a very good chance for contending. And the Angels are right there with them also. And so when you look at how much the Rangers won by last year, how big that difference was between the Rangers and the rest of the competition, it's going to be shortened tremendously. This is going to be a very, very tight race. But I still think the Rangers will be number one in the division. And for reasons why I feel that way is because they kept their core. The only guy they really lost was Cliff Lee. And when you take a look at it, last year, they were already in first before they got Cliff Lee. Cliff Lee was only there for half the season, And it's not like he pitched his best when he was here with the Rangers. So, and you got to look at it. Our first base situation now has Mitch Moreland, who showed that he can hit and can play well. So having him starting off, hopefully he'll keep progressing, keep doing well, and our first base situation will be better. When you look at our third base situation, bringing in Adrian Beltre, he's going to help make up for not having Vladimir Guerrero, and he's going to bring in more defense at third base, which will be really good. Elvis Andrus is growing more, still having Ian Kinsler. We have Michael Young ready at DH and come out off the bench. If, because Ian Kinsler, we all know, he keeps getting hurt. It just keeps happening. So if we put Michael Young out there, you don't lose anything. And we're talking about Nelson Cruz and Josh Hamilton in the outfield, and then having David Murphy as a fourth guy. There in point, the Rangers have the best offense in the American League West. Okay, they have a powerful lineup they go up against. The thing about, and when you look at the Rangers, you also not forget they picked up Jorvik Torbella, who's going to be a good catcher for them. And then you look at their bullpen, they brought in Arthur Rhodes, who was an all-star last year. You know, had a very good ERA. And then you talk about having Darren Oliver back for another year. You're talking about having Mark Lowe for an entire year. So, you know, you can't say that that Cliff Lee deal was a complete dud. We still got Mark Lowe, who can still pitch, coming back. Hopefully comes back well. Feliz, last year, he's one of the best closers. You know, I had 40 saves as a rookie. That's really, really good. It's a record. So, Rangers really didn't lose anything besides Cliff Lee. And they made it to the World Series last year. A big part of making it to the World Series was Cliff Lee. And so the only a problem that I have with the Rangers is first looking at their rotation. You know, much like the A's, Rangers have some iffiness to the rotation. You're talking about Derek Holland, who's been injured, hadn't really been able to play a whole lot the last 2 seasons. And then you've also got Brandon Webb, who hasn't played in 2 years. You know, and so you're really back into the rotation. You're really hoping that we stay healthy. You're really hoping that the Rangers stay healthy and they can keep going. And I think that it's very possible they can. Brandon Webb is the biggest if in that rotation. If Brandon Webb comes back as Brandon Webb, as he was with the Diamondbacks, as the Cy Young Award winner, that's going to be a huge genius pickup. But if he falters, the good thing is at least the Rangers don't lose much. Like the A's with Rich Hart and Brandon McCarthy. If they don't make it, they don't lose much. You know, so I think the race is close. I mean, the AL West is going to be a tough division. It won't be quite as tough as, let's say, divisions such as the AL East, but it will be a tough division, and it will be a lot closer this year. So we'll see what happens. Next, I will be talking about the AL East and how Boston is with the Yankees, where they're at, the Orioles, and the Rays, and also the Blue Jays. So we'll see about that coming up in the next video, and I will hopefully get back to you soon, talk to you soon, some more baseball. All this from the Baseball Time.